Nearly 760,000 Americans are claiming their Social Security abroad. That number may not sound like a lot, but it has doubled in nearly 25 years, according to the Social Security Administration. More American retirees are packing up and leaving the U.S. for a better life, and what they're finding might surprise you. Why are retirees choosing life overseas? For many, it's about freedom. Freedom from sky-high healthcare costs. Freedom from political tension. Freedom from the fear that U.S. retirement doesn't stretch as far as it used to. But life abroad doesn't always live up to the hype. Sure, you might gain beautiful weather, affordable living, and new experiences. But you could also face loneliness, cultural barriers, and a healthcare system that works very differently from what you're used to. Before you pack your bags, let's hear directly from those who have already taken the leap. These Americans share the real pros and cons of leaving the U.S. behind. Some will inspire you. Others may make you think twice. Let's dive in. Mexico is one of the hot spots for retiree expats. Let's see what this person had to say about life in Mexico as an American. Let's start with the pros. I'm going to read you a direct quote. "I'm getting less and less stressed out about having to go to the doctor. I didn't realize how much I subconsciously worried about getting sick or hurt in the States until I moved here. Got an infection, spent like 5 minutes with a doctor at pharmacy, and paid $15 for meds I needed. I was floored. I knew before I moved that healthcare was less expensive here, but knowing it and experiencing it were somehow different." Other pros that were mentioned include the food, the culture, the cost of living. And it was pointed out that the people are generally friendly and helpful. And let's not forget about the weather. This person says, and I quote, "It gets sort of cold sometimes where I live, but nothing like back home, which is nice. I hate the cold." Another person says the cost of living is super low. The locals are incredibly friendly. The food is amazing. And this person goes on to say, Mexico is not all poverty and remote desert as is commonly believed in many places in the U.S. Now let's talk about some of the cons. This particular person says that paperwork is one of the major cons. Here's a direct quote. "I am an impatient person, so dealing with bureaucracy and making endless copies of everything that proves I exist drives me crazy." And another point made by this person. "I live in a relatively safe city, but it's frustrating feeling the sense of unease about traveling to other parts of the country. I miss being able to just take a road trip for no reason without worrying at all." And one final negative by another individual was the amount of bugs. Now let's pop over to the other side of the world and talk about Thailand, which is another popular destination for Americans. Let's see what these expats had to say. Some of the positives about life in Thailand, as pointed out by one person, and I quote, "are great people, great food, inexpensive places to live depending on your lifestyle, and top-notch medical care." Some of the negatives include traffic, air pollution, and no permanent residence unless you're super wealthy. One person pointed out, and I'll just quote this from this person because I don't know if this is actually true. I didn't delve into the research too much on this. But this person says, "You must renew your visa every year as they don't really want you here unless you are a tourist." If you happen to have experience with this and can shed some light on this, put it in the comments below. I'd be interested to know if that is in fact the real situation. Okay, let's move over to Europe and talk about Spain. An expat from Milwaukee pointed out a few of the positives, which include universal healthcare, delicious food, and the overall quality of life, which is generally better and more relaxed. For this person, the weather in Spain is also a big plus. She says, and I quote, "I'm from Milwaukee, and winters are brutal, and there's pretty much nowhere here with winters as bad as there." But she also went on to say about how she feels safe. So much so that she feels comfortable walking home alone at night. And when it comes to the cost of living, this person said that in general, things are mostly cheaper than back at home. The cons for people here in Spain really centered around convenience. It was pointed out that anything to do with public administration, services, are generally very slow. And almost nothing is open on Sundays, except for some restaurants. So if you're used to running around doing errands on Sunday, you'd have to rethink that. And also it was noted that supermarkets don't have the variety that they do here in the United States. And finally, it was pointed out that customer service sometimes leaves a bit to be desired. If you're thinking more along the lines of island life, then let's take a look at what this particular person had to say about living in the Dominican Republic. This person lives in Santiago. Some of the pros include high-quality food and activities on the cheap. Also, easy access to fresh fruits and vegetables. The people are generally friendly and humble. And the tropical weather, of course, was definitely a plus. For this particular person, they said the tropical weather was kinder to their skin. And with everything being nearby, this person apparently generally walks or bikes everywhere. This person confirmed that it's definitely cheaper to live in the Dominican Republic. For a monthly budget of around $600, this individual says that they eat out regularly at restaurants, they travel to the beach on public transportation, and they rent a brand new apartment. This person also discovered that the locals will do anything for a few bucks. Little things like changing light bulbs, bringing groceries up a few flights of stairs to their apartment, or killing bugs. But like anything, there are cons. This person pointed out that there's too much litter everywhere. It was also pointed out that it's too difficult to find a public restroom with soap or even a toilet seat. Imported luxuries like chocolate and syrup are ridiculously expensive. And overall, the attitude was a little too casual and a bit too lazy for this person's taste. Oh, and the flying cockroaches at night were pretty high on this person's list of negatives. I don't know if they sell Raid there, but it might be a good thing to pack in your suitcase. Let's move on to France, another popular place for expats to land. Here are some reasons why Americans love France. Food, for one. Cheese, fresh baguettes, croissants. Excellent healthcare, all paid for by taxes, is another. Incredible social services and fantastic mass and urban transit. It's easy to get to neighboring countries like Spain and Italy. From Paris, London is just an hour and a half away, and Venice and Florence are just over 2 hours away. As one person said, and I quote, "Want to go to Geneva for the weekend or do some hiking? Okay, 3 hours on a train and you're there." And of course there's art and beaches and architecture and history. One person said, "People really seem to enjoy the simple things and take advantage of their time off." Some of the not so high points of France, as one person pointed out, are no air conditioning. Summer can be brutal for a few weeks. And bureaucracy. Everything moves very slowly. As one person humorously put it, "I feel like I'm in a Kafka novel sometimes." And nothing is open early. For instance, one person pointed out that even the Starbucks doesn't open until after 8 a.m. One person living in Argentina kind of said it best, and I'm going to read this quote to you. "In the US, we take a lot for granted, such as stable internet connection, great customer service, the list goes on. In another country, you can pretty much never guarantee any of these things. And if you complain about them, nobody really does anything to solve the problem. Everyone seems to have an 'oh yeah, well that happens' sort of mindset." If I've learned anything from living abroad, it's not to take for granted some of the extreme privilege I have had growing up in the US. So what do you think? Has any of this changed your view about life in another country? Hopefully this video has shed some light on what retiree expats are experiencing while living abroad. If so, please give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. Look, I think we can all agree that nothing in this life is all roses and sunshine all the time. But interestingly enough, despite some of the negatives expressed by some of these US expats, they all agree that they don't miss life in the US. If you are thinking about retiring abroad, whether full-time or part-time, and you need an agent to help you in the area that you are considering, I offer a free service and I can help connect you to the right agent. Scan the QR code right here or click on the link down below. Fill out the form and I'll get back to you with an agent in your market. In the meantime, check out this next video. It might give you some insights on retiring abroad or even retiring somewhere in the United States. Thanks for joining me. I'm Alysia Shivers. Until next time.